Hey girl, today's episode is a real treat because we're talking about non-negotiables for true recovery. I'm going to be sharing with you the non-negotiables that I had in my journey. You might want to implement some of these in your journey. Friend, I'm also going to be giving you a podcast roundup as we talk through these non-negotiables so that you can go back to some key episodes that I truly feel are going to bless your day. Let's jump right into today's episode. Hey girl, welcome to the Her Best Self podcast. I'm Lindsay Nickel, former competitive figure skater and perfectionist, turned God-led imperfect boy mom and digital CEO. If you find yourself constantly thinking about food and wondering if you'll wake up one day free from the obsessive thoughts and behaviors controlling your life, then I've created this podcast for you. Because I know exactly what it's like to be a downright hot mess, trapped in a destructive cycle of disordered eating. I finally found freedom, and you can too, girlfriend. So if you're ready to heal your relationship with food and body and break the chains of control and show up in your best health, then grab your favorite Tarjay journal and let's get to it. So you can start living your best life as your best self. Hey girl, hey, I'm so happy to have you back to the show listening today. I just wanted to start today's episode by saying how truly grateful I am for you listening to the show. It means the world to me, and I have had such a pleasure of working with so many of you, and if we haven't yet connected, come on over to the private Facebook community, Hope and Healing for Eating Disorder Recovery. You can find us in the show notes below. And sister, if you're looking for more support with disordered eating, I want you to know that I am so there for you. You can find more about how I can provide that support for you if you're looking for more accountability at lindsaynickel.com. Now, my voice is a little bit scratchy today because I feel like I have been talking all flipping day. And of course, I'm showing up to the podcast to talk to you. And it's such a treat for me to be able to come right in and to chat with you. But I promise, if you hang out with me, we'll get to the good stuff. Let's dive right in. I want to talk about non-negotiables for true recovery, because non-negotiables truly are not opening up negotiation and not doing the bargaining and not doing any trading with ourselves. These are set ideals. These are behaviors. They are like personal vows that we put on ourselves that are not open for discussion. I'm sure you have non-negotiables in your life on other things, right? Like maybe in your relationships with your family or maybe your spouse, right? Where there's non-negotiables and they are personal to you. And there's something that truly allow you to prioritize what's important to you and what's not. Non-negotiables allow you to build boundaries with yourself and to trust yourself again, especially if you've had an unhealthy relationship with food. Ori Eating Disorder Clinic states non-negotiables are intentions and behaviors that you know are key for recovery. You need these to be in place on your most challenging days, because they create a threshold that you know you cannot drop below, while leaving space for additional challenges that you may try to incorporate when you feel able to. And I truly feel that because there were so many times in my personal recovery journey where I just felt stuck. I felt alone. I felt I literally felt like I was in the middle of realizing and accepting that I had an unhealthy relationship with food and I had been diagnosed with an eating disorder, but then feeling literally confused, like dazed and confused. Like, how do I get myself out of this place? I truly want to, but half of me doesn't. And so today I wanted to talk about what I did to be able to up the ante in recovery. This was setting these non-negotiables. This was setting these personal vows with myself that were not up for negotiation. Like they weren't moving. It wasn't happening. When I crossed this line, it's done, we're through. And yes, we set those in our relationships. But we need to be setting those with ourselves and our recovery. If this is a priority for you, friend, I want you to think about how without that personal accountability, it's so easy to fall back into old ways. Without any accountability, it's actually easy to fall back into old ways. But if we're not holding ourselves up to a standard that we deem is going to be able to prioritize what's best for our life, then it's almost inevitable that we're going to fall back to unhealthy patterns and behaviors. Non-negotiables, they allow you to build trust with you. Think about your moral compass. What are some of those other non-negotiables in your life that you just aren't going to tolerate, that are necessary for you? Today, I'm going to be sharing what I believe are the non-negotiables and essentials for eating disorder recovery. And these are 4 different things that I did in order to be done with my eating disorder. I truly feel like if you do these things, you will find a level of freedom like no other. Number 1 is ditch the scale. If you haven't listened to episode 5, why I don't weigh myself, I encourage you to go back all the way to episode 5. It's a really great episode. I realized that I was stepping on to the scale to determine my permission level for myself, to determine my worth, to hold value, to give me the bargain in my mind of whether or not I was going to allow myself to eat or whether or not I was going to restrict. I actually wanted to make sure I didn't gain weight or secretly was happy when it wasn't higher than I thought it would be. And even though during recovery, I was increasing my food intake and I was working with a dietitian at the time and therapist, but it was this hindrance to my recovery. And I realized that if I was going to keep stepping on the scale and looking at that number to somehow magically make me feel better when all it did was make me feel worse, I was going to stay stuck. I was going to stay chained. The thing was, the lower the number never felt low enough for me. And the more I weighed myself, the more I wanted to weigh myself, the more obsessed I became about weighing myself. I realized that it was creating more shame, especially in this messy middle of recovery. It was like part of me, half of me, wanted to step on the scale and see if I made progress towards recovery, i.e. gaining weight in the process. But then secretly, part of me wanted to step on the scale and see the number lower. And so it kept me in this mind warp. It kept me stuck. And I knew that I had to get out of this lose-lose situation. I was only going to recover up to a certain point because I wasn't giving myself permission to truly surrender into recovery, because I was going to the scale to be able to give me the permission that I needed to give to myself. The scale was never going to do that. It never will do that. It's simply a gravity point. And so, sister, if you want to take the first step in truly putting yourself first and creating a non-negotiable, I 100% believe that you need to ditch the scale. Number 2, I stopped counting and I was determined to focus on fueling my body to nourish my body. And I told myself over and over, eating wasn't optional. This was a non-negotiable. I had to get adequate nutrition to be able to get stronger. And that is what is most important when you have starved yourself or when you have limited the nutrition that your body has received, maybe for years or decades. So restricting is something that has to come off of the table. And Dr. Anita Johnson says this perfectly. Counting calories is not the answer because eating isn't the problem. If we could just go and eat a cheeseburger, right, like everyone around us feels we should be able to do to recover from this, then we all would have already been there on the other side of it. And it wouldn't have been so hard. This is about control. It's about rigid behaviors, obsessions, this mental disaster in our brain that takes over our identity and tries to tell us that we're not good enough or worthy enough to eat. I encourage you to go back to episode 56. Calorie counting isn't cute, and what you can count instead. You're going to like that one. And feeling guilty for eating is truly like feeling guilty for breathing. We've literally been taught to be ashamed of what our body needs to survive. Think about that, sister. Refuse to feel that shame anymore and set this non-negotiable. You have permission to eat. And I realized that this was just going to keep me stuck. It was going to keep me from actually moving forward with my life. So in order to do that, I had to stop counting calories. I had to get off the apps. I had to stop being chained to a calculator or jotting it down in my notebook every single time I had a bite of something, or calculating in my mind how much I could have before the end of the day. Like, that had to go. I had to stop. And yes, I realize when you've been doing this for some time that you might have already kind of understanding and knowledge of what it is that you're eating. So maybe you're not writing everything down. Maybe you just know at this point. But this part of what I'm saying in terms of it being a non-negotiable for your recovery is no counting and no restricting. When you're finding yourself there to a place of you're skimping, you're not wanting to eat, you're not feeling it, you feel like you just shouldn't or you're not allowed, it's granting yourself that permission, creating a non-negotiable around it. Legit non-negotiable. Eating isn't optional. I need to do this for my future. And say to yourself, this is my medicine. This is how I nourish my body. This is how I'm going to stay here and be here for my family. And this isn't something I'm negotiating with any longer. Number 3, the non-negotiable that had to be put into my life, and I feel 100% that it needs to be a part of your journey, is getting accountability. Good, solid accountability. You can go listen to episode 57, The Importance of Community, and where you can find one. You are going to enjoy that episode. And also the recent episode 85, where I talk about the best traits of a recovery coach. Friend, if you do not have someone in your corner supporting you along this path that's cheering you on and guiding you, someone who doesn't understand what it is like to be in your mind, who doesn't understand what it's like to restrict food or to feel all these feelings, you need that accountability and support, because support around you from family members who just don't get it, it isn't enough. I encourage you to find that accountability. Number 4, my non-negotiable was embracing who I was becoming and truly accepting the fact that I had to shed this former self in order to transform into who I knew I was capable of becoming and being. That's the hardest part. It's the unknown. It's surrendering to what we don't yet know. And I realized that I was going to literally die. I had so much more to give. Friend, you have so much more to give. I realized that I was going to have to embrace it to move forward and to live forward. And I was going to have to put on my seatbelt, buckle up, get in the driver's seat of my life, and take control of what was controlling me. Maybe you're there. Embracing who I was becoming was probably the scariest thing I had to do. Because the truth is, if you've been trapped with an eating disorder or thoughts and behaviors that have been leaving you here, you're terrified because you don't know who you really are. You haven't allowed yourself to be who you really are. You haven't allowed yourself to like or dislike food because it's all been with the intent to restrict. It's all been with the fear that you're going to gain weight. It's all been with this filter over your life. And it's scary for the first time to be able to have a voice and to stand up for you and prioritize you. It's truly scary to try to become someone that you don't know who that person is yet. You know that you don't want to be stuck with these patterns. You know that you don't want to be stuck here, but you don't know who you are enough because you haven't allowed yourself to be her. But I knew that I was going to have to surrender my fear to gain weight. I knew I was going to have to surrender who I was and accept just part of the shedding process. And part of the transformation was that it was going to be okay. And it might not be okay today, and it may not be okay tomorrow, but I had to put one foot in front of the other, just like you, friend. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I'm going to say that again. When you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Creating these non-negotiables in your life is going to set your priorities on track. If you've been feeling all over the place, you've been feeling like you're just stuck here, you're listening to my podcast, you've searched everything on Google, you're trying to find healing, you want out, but you find yourself chained. You find yourself being pulled right back in. In order to live a balanced and grounded life, in order to truly recover, I feel non-negotiables are a must. We have to stop bargaining with our own self. You must get off the scale. You must stop restricting and counting calories. You must find some accountability and support that's going to keep you motivated when you're not feeling it. And you must embrace who you're becoming and do it anyways. It sucks. I'll be the first to tell you it sucks. Nobody enjoys uncomfortable feelings. If I didn't allow myself to sit with all the mess I had created in my life, I would still be sitting in it. And it would have been a whole lot messier. So while I believe that these 4 things are key non-negotiables, and I stuck to them in my own journey, I want you to develop your own list. Here are some ways to think about these things. And of course, think about your personal journey, where you are currently, where you want to be a year from now, and think about those biggest challenges. I want you to think about some of these examples that I've shared with you today that you need to be creating in your life to set those standards for your life and your recovery. What is non-negotiable? What is no longer tolerable? What is no longer open to negotiation? What are you no longer going to be bargaining with, trading with? These are your ideals, sis. These are your personal vows to you. It's time to stand up and write them. Maybe you need to get off social media or limit your social media. Maybe you need to stop the scroll because comparison freaking bites. You can go to episode 27, shift your perspective, let go of comparisonitis. And you can also go to episode 7, social media impacts on disordered eating and your mental health. And both of those episodes are perfect if you're thinking about getting off the socials and truly you're finding yourself comparing yourself to everyone around you, their bodies, what they look like, and then you feel left like a failure, like you're not good enough. Maybe you need structured meals, choices that you can turn to so that you can avoid skipping or skimping or returning to these unhealthy patterns and behaviors. Go to episode 4, Peace with Food and What to Eat When You Don't Know What to Eat. That one is going to challenge you. It's going to pull at your heart. It's going to give you some guidance and support. Maybe you just need a self-care strategy right now. Maybe you feel like you have been putting yourself last on the list. You can't recover if recovery isn't a priority. For me, that was doing something that I didn't really know that I needed, but I knew I needed something. And one of my biggest things was overexercise. And even if I would allow myself to eat more in terms of food, I would have to overexercise to bargain my way out of it. For me, I knew to stop that, I had to set a non-negotiable. And so you can go to episode 22, How Yoga Gave Me Freedom to Get Off the Treadmill. You're going to like that one if you haven't already listened to it. I know I shared a bunch of episodes with you today, so you'll want to go back and listen to today's show. But in the gist of the theme, it's time that you set some non-negotiables for your recovery. If finding freedom from obsessive thoughts and behaviors is killing you and you are tired of living in this place, like you know there is so much more to your life than here in current circumstance. You know you're meant for more and you listen to me and you hear it and you understand it, but you're just not sure, like what is the next step? It's time to set some standards, some non-negotiables. What are you wanting right now in your life that you don't have? And what are your biggest challenges? These are your personal vows. Maybe it's just one. Maybe like me, you need to get off the scale. Or maybe like me, you need to throw away those apps that are keeping you chained to counting. Maybe like me, you need to find accountability. Or maybe, friend, it's something completely different. I encourage you today to set those non-negotiables in your life because on your most challenging days, you need to be able to create a threshold that you cannot drop under. This is going to leave you rested, balanced, grounded, so that you can continue along your path to full freedom. I hope that you have enjoyed today's show. I want to hear from you. If we haven't connected yet, go to lindsaynickel.com. You can find more about me. You can find more about how I can support you. You can find more about what I do. And sister, if you need more, don't settle for less. Create these personal vows to you that are not open for negotiation. I'll see you real soon. Bye for now, sis. Oh, friend, thank you so much for letting me share what was on my heart today. My hope for this podcast is to help more women find freedom from food and body. If this has empowered or blessed you, let me know. I'd be honored for your rating and review of my show, and I'd love to connect with you in my private Facebook community. You really can move from perfection to purpose. Let's break the chains together. I'll help navigate the way. Until next time, bye for now, girl.